Welcome to the Life on Shuffle podcast, a collection of stories about people who have taken chances, embraced the unexpected, and inadvertently discovered their true passion. Today we are featuring Emerald Williams, a high school math teacher from Hudson, North Carolina. Also in the room today we have Ben and Kylie. I am Josh Cooper. She is from Sampson County, North Carolina. She has taught for 14 years, but she initially wanted to join the military, but decided to go to NC State to pursue engineering. She eventually discovered a passion for education. Welcome to the show, Emerald. All right, so the first question was planned to be, what made you agree to join us today? But I wanted to see if you remembered a moment from 2020 on one of these days in which students weren't allowed in the building. We were trying to plan job shadowing, something that, our school had been able to do and some of the experience we valued for high schoolers. We were trying to figure out a way in which we could get students to experience possible careers without putting them in an environment that was risky at the time. Right? And I had this idea for a podcast, and we were going to interview a bunch of different careers, and we were going to put it out there and let them listen to it. Do you remember?
Yes.
A little bit of this?
Yeah.
So this whole show evolved from that time. And I thought it was interesting that you were
in the
room when we were trying to come up with and figure out a way to do that. And that idea never happened. I mean, we never really got the ball rolling on it. But afterwards, I caught myself telling a room full of high schoolers, like, it'd be really helpful if you knew what you wanted to do with your life so we could enroll you in classes, at the college next semester, like the right classes. And then like the sheer panic in their eyes that they had to figure out what it was that they wanted to do with their life made me change that idea to, let's talk about people's careers, but how they got there more than details of the job.
Well, and I remember us sitting through those brainstorming sessions, and we were going to be the ones that were doing the interviewing. Yeah. Because we were going to record them for the kids. We were going to try to maybe even do the video Zoom sessions with the people and then post those videos and let them kind of experience job shadowing virtually, or they had to pick so many through the clusters. I think we even got to the point where we were making lists of names. Yeah. And it just didn't even go anywhere. I
think a couple of our team of teachers, somebody actually recorded one. I feel bad that we never got it out there, but.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so this is pretty cool that it's evolved from that to the kids doing the interviewing, because we were going to use those Fridays to set up interviews very similar to what y'all are doing right now. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So now our product, this podcast, is, and I keep telling them, we've talked about it, it's not for us, it's like for everybody outside of, across the world, if people care to listen to it, or if anybody that's like wondering what it is that, not necessarily what it is that they want to do, but like how it's okay that if things happen and it changed along the way, that's not a negative experience. You should take it as a positive experience and kind of move forward with whatever your new kind of
well, and I think that I changed my mind so many times that every experience or every thought that I had along the way, like, funneled into the same thing. Like, it's really weird. I mean, like, if you think about the personality type that I am, military, science, and engineering, like, I take all of those same skills, and they still landed me in the same spot.
You said that associates with your personality. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, like, for instance, like, I'm a very, I kind of like protocol, like, I like this happening in a certain way. So as far as a teacher on the non-student side, I like the fact that there's a policy. I like the fact that this is how it is. And while that might wade in the gray every once in a while, like, there's a right and a wrong answer on how to deal with you guys. Like, you know, like in my mind, and it might not be written in a book, but in my mind, I'm like, Kylie is who Kylie is, and this is how I need to act with Kylie, and Ben is who Ben is, and this is how I should interact with Ben. And you both would, even though it's different, see it as fair. Like in my classroom, because y'all have been there. So there's a way that you can treat people individually and also be fair, which in my mind is very similar to any type of military / law enforcement style. Like, they might treat their employees or colleagues differently, but there's a right and a wrong. Like, there's a fairness that has to stay there at all times. And so I kind of like the fact that, you know, there is kind of a right and a wrong way and a fairness to the game. But then the engineering side, when I got into that, it was really a flip of the coin on whether to do science or math. And all the things that I learned in college, like how to do things like hands-on, is still what I do in my classroom. I mean, so that part of it carried over. It wasn't like I was learning anything different or I had to do a bunch of different stuff to be an educator. It all like literally carried over into education and like led me to where I wanted to be.
It's pretty cool.
So I've got a question, but I feel like we got to back up a little bit.
Go for it.
What was it that made you start keying in on the military? Like, talk a little bit about your high school. I guess you kind of came to that realization in high school time. So what is something from that time that made you start thinking military was your path?
So I grew up outside of Fort Bragg. So lots of people were in the military that I knew. Nobody personally in my family, because my family grew up as farmers. So I had an uncle that was in the military. I had a first cousin that I was really close to that went into the military. But I was in 10th grade when 9/11 occurred. So before I decided to be in the military, I was thinking, you know, architect kind of deal. So still things that dealt with building was still kind of on my mind. I never thought that I was college bound. And the reason why was because nobody in my family had ever gone to college. So I was like, okay, well, military seemed like the best thing in order to get out of my county, to have a good career, to not end up working in one of the hog plants that my family grew up working in. Like, literally every member of my family has been in and out of the same plant. And I'm like one of the very few who have not, actually. So there's like a handful of us that at some point in time didn't take at least a part-time job in one of these plants. My mom evidently always had dreams of me going to college, because she was like, if anybody's got enough grit to make it, you know, it was me. But 9/11 occurred, and I just remember, like, we're a very patriotic family, and I think that it's almost hard not to be when you grow up in, like, the outskirts of a military town. And when 9/11 occurred in 10th grade, my cousin immediately left high school that year and went straight to Iraq. Like, it was his thing. And a bunch of people I went to school with, graduated with, they were headed that way. And so I was like, well, I want to go too. You know, I want to go. Like, I was mad. I was upset about what had happened. I was like, you know, this should have never happened to the United States. Like, I was all for going in and being part of the cause. So, like, I wanted to be, you know, part of everybody else. Everybody else was going, and I wanted to go too. So I really think 9/11 is what even, like, put that in my brain, like put some fire to it, because it was always kind of lingering there. Like, that's how I'm going to get out of, you know, doing what my family had always done. And then after 9/11, it was just like 100%, that's where I'm headed.
Did you always want out of your family business, to say?
Yes. Like, I don't think... So my family farm turned into one that you rent out. Like, it had been divided so many times throughout the years that it was not farmable enough to make a living off of. So what had happened is when it got split right after my grandpa passed away that last time, my dad's part of it is only 34 acres. So there's no way that's enough to grow anything on or do anything to make a living for 7 people, because I'm one of 5 kids. He actually stopped farming and went in to one of these hog slaughtering plants, so Smithfield Foods. He's been a maintenance man there since he was in his early 20s. So it wasn't really a farm, so to speak, anymore. And after he got that division of property, then you found a job either doing a service job like every town needs, like being a teacher or being a cop. You either went that route or you were part of Smithfield Foods. So his part of it was being a maintenance man. I've had my uncles were on like the actual packing line, like where they're packaging bacon. They work their way up and it's great. They have a great life. They're supervisors now. They'll retire out in a few years, but it's like hard work, and it's production. And I wasn't really into that. While I was able to do it, it really wasn't my thing. I mean, I had 2 sisters that after high school, that's where they went for a while they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do. So I think the whole time I saw how hard my dad worked. I saw that he'd have to pull 7 days a week on end. Like, he was always exhausted, and I never wanted that to be my life. Like, his life was literally work, home, sleep. And there's years that we couldn't even get a weekend off for a vacation, like in the summer. Like, and that wasn't the life that I wanted. Like, I wanted to travel. I wanted to see new things. I wanted to be a part of something bigger. Both of my parents wanted me to go off and do something different. So it wasn't one of those things where it's what's good enough for us is good enough for you. Like, they wanted me to go do something different. They did not want that to be my life.
So you would say that they're like one of your biggest supporters then?
Definitely. Yeah. They were a little upset when I went from engineering to teaching because they weren't sure if at the time, teaching was going through a hiring freeze when I graduated. They were a little concerned there, like, how are you giving up your engineering degree to become a teacher? What's going on with you? Are you having some kind of like college crisis? So they were pretty concerned. They were like, you're not going to have enough to support yourself. And that was their big thing too. Like, they wanted all their kids to be able to like go out and independently support themselves. And they were kind of worried that I wouldn't be able to. So that was a little bit of a struggle, but like now they see that it was okay and they think that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So they definitely were one of my biggest supporters. The switch from military to college occurred because of my mom. She was like, there's no way I'm sending my daughter to Iraq. Like, the war was like full on when I graduated. I even tried to convince her. I said, listen, I'll go into the Air Force. Like, I'm not trying to be a Marine. Like, let me go into the Air Force and just like work behind the scenes. Like, I was like, I'm going to score good on the ASVAB. I was like, I'll do something where my boots will never hit the ground. And we actually made a bet. Like, it was between my mom and dad. My dad was like, let her go into the military. And my mom was like, no, she's our kid that's going to college. And so it was literally a bet. It was like, if she turns in the application and gets in, she has to go to college. And if I didn't get in, then she had to chill out and let me go to the military and calm down.
Seems like a pretty good bet.
Yeah. So needless to say, she worked really hard on my college application. Like, she made sure everything was spelled like correctly. She made sure, she's like, this is like pre-applications online. So she made sure everything was good. The closest university to me was Campbell University, and it was about 45 minutes away. They had a financial aid night, and she signed me up to go. I was like, I'm not going to their school. She's like, we're going to make sure it's right. They said anybody can go. And she marched right in there with all this paperwork. And she's like, y'all are going to show me how to do this. And, you know, I'm sitting over there dragging behind and so like, this isn't really what I want to do. Like, why are you making me go? You know, I didn't have a roommate, didn't know anybody that was going. So it was pretty scary. That first year at State was a little rough.
What was some like other colleges that you would have preferred or liked better?
Well, I only applied to 2, and it's very interesting. I applied to State and Gardner-Webb, and the funny thing about that is I ended up at Gardner-Webb for my master's degree. So I ended up getting a degree from both of them. Those are literally the only 2 I applied to because it was, like, in my mind, the bet was on. I was like, I really didn't see myself at college, and I was not trying to get in hard. Like, I was not on that pathway. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure that I could have gotten into more colleges, but those were the only 2. And the only reason I applied to Gardner-Webb at the beginning is because my mom had heard from somebody at church that Gardner-Webb was a great school, and I should apply. And that's how it happened. And I think I applied in time enough to get, like, the free application fee, like, waived.
Mm-hmm.
So
she was willing to go anywhere, huh?
Yeah. I was just like, what? And so, you know, applying for the College of Engineering is one of the ones that you need, like, the highest GPA for. If I'd applied for the College of Agriculture, coming from Sampson County, it was an immediate get-in.
Yeah.
I had lots of people I went to school with, and they applied for the College of Agriculture, got in, and then changed majors after they got accepted. So my mom had even tried that, and I was like, no, we're going to do it the right way. Like, that's what I'm going to do if you're going to make me go to college.
Have to have some leeway.
Yeah.
It's funny that how much our stories are the same. Like, and we've talked in high school classrooms about 9/11 for many years. I was a junior, and I had the same intention. I was like, I'm going to join the Navy. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And my dad, who did not get to go to college because he ended up in Vietnam, said, nope, like, you're not doing what I did, kind of thing. And so our compromise, it wasn't a bet, our compromise was he was like, you can apply to the Naval Academy, which is like super difficult to get into. And he helped me through the whole thing. I did not get in. Like, I did not have the grades to do that. I had everything else but the transcript, the GPA kind of thing to get in. And I was like, well, what's plan B? And I found University of South Carolina had a Navy ROTC program. And he was like, well, you can go and do college, and then you can do all this at the same time, and then you can, you know, go and do whatever it is that you want to do. And I got waitlisted there, and I needed somewhere, right? And ASU was, at the time, that was when they would take anybody. So I got in there, and it was the only place that I got a true acceptance. So I just ended up there. I mean, it's funny how, like, little moments like that can kind of really, you don't think a lot about it, but it really changes it. So the military part, and then the parent, you know, kind of involvement. It's funny to be.
My parents still, if it gets brought up, it's still a touchy subject because of the fact that we didn't know what we were doing when it came to filling out college papers. So I ended up paying a ton back in, like, student loans that I should not have had to pay back. Like, my grad school ended up being free because I went into education and I knew better when I applied to grad school. But my dad still gets frustrated with my mom when he's like, should have just let her go. Should have let her go into the military. What's wrong with you? She'd have never had that. She went to military.
Looking back, could you still see yourself, like, going into the military, or is your mind just completely changed?
No, I think somebody literally asked me this question at the beginning of the school year, and they said, what would you be doing if you weren't a teacher? And it would probably still be into the military. Like,
still Air Force?
Maybe. I don't know. The Navy was always really a good second choice just because I love the ocean and I love the water. You get to travel a lot more in the Navy than you would in the Air Force. My mom thought the Air Force was safer, so that's why I had ended up saying, hey, I would just go to the Air Force for you. But I think if I had my time back and I did not get into college, or my mom was not like pushing college, I probably would have totally ended up in the military, and I probably would have still ended up somehow like educating younger people than me. Like I still see myself in that kind of role. And I also would probably still see myself as kind of like a lifer. Like I probably would have done all 30 years in the military and retired out that way if everything had went good. So that's kind of the thing. Like if I was there and truly passionate about it, then I feel like I'm a lifer. Like I'm one of those people. I don't bounce around a lot.
Would you have done that if you ended up at the pork processing plant?
Oh no. I already knew that I'd have been miserable there.
You wouldn't have done 30?
I wouldn't have done 30. I mean, my dad literally is doing 30, and it's like so hard on him. Like, I mean, he's had like everybody that I know is physically like broken down, and like I have plans after retirement. You know, like I want to be on the Appalachian Trail. I want to be outside. There's places I want to go see. I've not hiked volcanoes yet. Like, I'm thankful that my parents did that, because without them doing that, I wouldn't be here at the spot that I'm at. But they wanted a better life for me, and I know that their retirement does not look like my retirement will. So I'll be done with 30 years in education or 30 years in the military in my 50s. And my parents are already in their 60s and still have like a few more years to go before they can retire. So they are lifers, and they are dedicated to providing a better life for their kids and for people around them. And that's what kept them going all these years. But it's taken a really big toll on them, like physically. So I know that I can only stick with something that I feel like I'm really passionate about and what I think matters. And that's who I am. And to them, it wasn't the job. To them, their motivation was, I've got to have a good life for my kids. And, you know, like now they do have grandkids. And so we got to finish this out for retirement so we can spend more time with them, kind of deal. So.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I think, would rather have a job that they're more miserable in, but get a lot more money. Except, like, we talked about this when we were prepping, like, it's better to have a life that you're happy with, but not make a lot of money, because you're happy in, let's say you have a family, you have, like, a house, like, in the mountains or somewhere. It would be better to live happy with your situation than be miserable and making money, because you have a lot of money, but that doesn't fix your happiness.
And that is probably one of the reasons I switched from engineering after 3 years. I mean, I was 1 year away. That was another big thing. Like, my mom's like, you're 1 year, one more year. But what had happened was so when I was in college, you know, I would have probably been the janitor for NASA and been happy. Like, if you'd have let me go into any part of the space program, I'd have gladly mopped those floors if you'd let me work.
Just be close.
Just to be there every day.
Yeah, I've seen you walk around Udvar Hazy,
like almost
museum
crying.
Up there, yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous, right? So I would have totally done that. Well, what happens my third year in college? So here's another life twist. NASA crashes. NASA is no longer NASA. Like, funding is stripped away. So what had happened is I'm sitting there and I'm in all these miserable classes. I see the same 7 people every day. And y'all know who I am. The same 7 people, like, get your nerves going after a while. And I needed different faces. So I'm sitting here with the same 7 people, like, busting my butt around the clock. And then my dream job, like, just melts on television on the news one night. I'm like, what just happened? You know? So NASA goes down my third year, and they start telling me that I have to pick up Mandarin. And I was like, we are not picking up Mandarin, because they were going to send all the new engineers to China and do 2 years in China and 2 years back. Now, you were about to make killer money, but I was like, that is not my life. One of the people that graduated with me for years ended up doing underwater piping with the Navy as a civilian, and he was totally miserable. He wasn't even doing what he went to school for, but his degree, like, associated that way.
Yeah, I had a roommate in college that I can't remember what the name of his degree was, but he has spent, I think he's still doing it, the last 20 some years designing sewer systems for like Gaston County Public Works or something. I mean, so the idea of engineer, architect, you know, it sounds good with like a name, but then we start talking about like what you could actually be doing. Somebody's got to do it, and we're glad that those people do it, but sometimes people think there's more glory in it than there actually is.
Right. And the thing of it is I was like, yes, he made good money, but he had to spend lots of time away from his family. If I had went that route, I would spend 2 years out of the United States at a time, is what they were suggesting. So, with that happening, I was like, that's no longer my dream job. Like, it's not where I saw myself. But now those engineers make killer money. They made killer money coming from, going over to China. Everything was paid for. But they couldn't spend it. I mean, so they come back to the United States for a little while to visit. Maybe they spend 2 years in the United States, but they're making money, but they don't have the time off to spend it. So in my mind, I was like, that's not worth it. Like, I like to have too much fun, and I don't want to be working on projects that take me 2 months around the clock to finish, and, you know, it just wasn't my thing.
Some free time.
Exactly.
Like teaching, you have the whole summer off, or most of the summer off.
Right. But even without that, like, what I found about with teaching is that while there's stressful pieces, and most of the stressful pieces come from not students, like, they're coming from the fact that I do have to fill out certain paperwork, and I do have to make sure test scores are up, and I've got to make sure this looks good on paper. So while there's that piece that stresses me out, but when I'm inside the classroom, like, I'm having fun. Like, it's just a game. I was like, I'm going to show you how to do this today, and we're going to practice doing it, and we're going to make sure you got it, and then we're moving on.
Which I've never been good at math, and I think I've already talked to you about that. But there's at least one thing that I remember from just having you. And I'll never be good at math, but it was always a lot more fun with you.
Oh, thanks. But the thing of it is, though, is that you discover that you're teachable. So even if you can't remember everything, you know that if you really needed that later, you could probably go back and maybe even reteach yourself that. And I think that's what people sometimes forget about education. Like, y'all have got so much at your fingertips now, you don't have to memorize formulas. Just look it up. You have to be able to use it. You really don't have to memorize it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I've always liked to have, like, a really laid-back classroom, and I like the fact that I get new faces and that I've met, like, 1,200 kids in Caldwell County right now. And a lot of them are, you know, adults and well on their way to doing really great things, which is pretty cool. But I still love doing what I'm doing. I mean, this is 14 years, and I still don't think I want to be anywhere else.
Which is great, because you've probably changed a lot of people and helped a lot of people, too. I mean, me, for instance.
Even if it was just one person, I think it would still be worth it. Because we've had a lot of fun along the way.
Yeah.
And, sorry, go ahead.
Always remember that quadratic video. Always.
It's about to play tomorrow.
Quadratic formula.
Tomorrow in class, y'all. It's my last thing.
And, like, how you are in the classroom, like, being nice to people, just to one person, that's a whole, like, chain effect. You being nice to someone, that'll make their day. They're going to be nice to someone, and then it goes on.
Yeah.
Like, even if it only affects one person a day, it's still affecting a lot more people than you think about it.
Well, I truly believe that's true, and I think that's true for you guys too. So I think one of the things that, like, my favorite teacher, and honestly, before I went back to change majors, I went back to her classroom for a while. So I was seriously thinking about it. I had talked to a counselor, like a career counselor at NC State, and she was like, think about the last time you were happy and think about what you were doing and go explore that for a minute. So I remember the last place I was really happy was when I used to, like, from college, I'd go and volunteer for my youth group trips. And I was like, okay, well, there's youth group. It's a teenage kind of environment. And then I went into my math teacher's classroom, and I was like, can I come see you? Like, let me just come sit down. She was not the easiest teacher to pass. Like, she was probably one of the she taught geometry back then, and it was really hard. There's lots of things you had to memorize. And so she wasn't my easiest. She wasn't my best class. But what I remember is things like when she was absent, if we did really, like, didn't give her sub a hard time, she would do homemade cakes, and she'd, like, bring them to class, and we would spend, like, a day off. Like, if I did good when no problems happened when she was gone, she would end up, you know, doing something really nice for us. Or, you know, she was always really easy to talk to, even though her class was hard. And I was like, that's the kind of teacher that I wanted to be. She even came to one of my math conferences. Like, I had to speak at a math conference years ago, and she, of all people, showed up. And I was like, I'm so nervous because you are here. Like, you
just because of her.
Yes. I was like, and she was like, oh, you'll do fine. Like, I've been waiting all year to come see your session, you know, and see what you've got to say. And she wasn't even teaching, and she showed up to the session. She had already retired, and I was like, this is like, I just remember, like, sweating and being, like, so nervous because she was there listening. But being back in that classroom and remembering how, like, nice she was, even though the material was hard, made me want to be the teacher that I am.
And I think that's one thing that people forget about, is that you have to look at teachers, like, two different ways. You have to look at them through their subject and what they have to teach, and as a human being. Which, when it comes to some teachers that I've had, that we've all had, they're kind of like the subject, and while they're teaching, it's not that great. Like, the way they teach probably might not work for me, but it could work for, like, Ben or you or something. Sure. But if you look at them as a human and outside of school, they're completely different, and you can love and adore them.
That's true. I think it's the same thing, like, from the teacher's perspective to the students. I mean, so I have to separate the fact that, you know, you not making a good grade in my class does not mean that you're a bad person. Yeah. And I think if you don't split that you end up, like, get into a very negative funk. And so it's not a place that I ever see myself being. I hope I'm never like that. But I think that's also why it doesn't matter what I teach. I mean, you guys know that I taught seminar for 2 years, so I wasn't even in the math classroom. I had just as much fun teaching that seminar class as I do in math. You know, sometimes people get outside of their subject area and they're miserable. And I don't think that's me. I think that if they even threw me into a science class, like, I might have to learn it, but just being in the classroom. Like, because for me, it's like, let's see what we can learn today that we didn't know already. Yeah. It's kind of the twist on it.
Which, would there be any other subject specifically that you would want to teach other than math, or that you would have chose to go into other than math?
I would have probably gone into science, but the weird thing about being a science teacher is that you have to be prepared to teach them all. So if there's a science position open at a school, you have to get trained in biology, chemistry, physics, physical science, like, all of them. And I could not stand biology.
Was there one science that you specifically would have wanted to teach?
If it was chemistry or physics, I think I would have been okay. But biology and even physical science, parts of physical science are okay. Earth and environmental was never my thing. And I just remember, I was like, well, I have enough credits in college to do either. I was like, if I got stuck with biology, like, that would have been tough for me. Because it wasn't my favorite thing. My anatomy class didn't go very well. Like, I had to dissect a cat. Like, it was just trauma. Like, I feel like high school biology and anatomy was traumatizing.
That's funny, because I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, that would have been awful, because we just dissected, in middle school, I think Ben went to school with me. We dissected a little baby pig. Yeah. And I dissected, like, 2 pig hearts, which those things are big. Yeah. But then just, was it, like, last week? We dissected another little baby pig, as well as a frog and an earthworm, which I was excited about the frog more than anything, because that's what I always hear people did, and I hadn't got to do that yet. The pig I wasn't too excited about because I'd already done it, and the earthworm,
the earthworm sounds like it'd be hard. Yeah. I don't even know why we did cats. Like, it was so weird. And the traumatizing part was, even my teacher at the time, like, she couldn't even handle it. Like, so I was going,
I just got a new puppy, so I'm like, oh God.
Well, I mean, I was like, Miss Johnson, you chose this. Like, and she's gagging when we open these bags and everything. And I'm like, girl, Like, what are we doing? You're not
it's
helping
like, you're
over here.
supposed to be the support here.
Yeah, she was struggling with it too, and I was like, why are we dissecting cats? Like, I don't understand. Of all creatures, like, why are we doing this? So, if I did not learn as much as I probably should have in biology or anatomy, probably due to that. But if I'd have got stuck with chemistry, like, I even tutored college chemistry here for years. So, if I'd have got stuck with a chemistry class or a physics class, but that wasn't, like, guaranteed. And I knew that I could handle all levels of math. And the fact that I wasn't guaranteed the science of my choice probably is what really led me to be a math teacher versus a science teacher. So, but besides that, if they were to stick me in any classroom, I mean, I think that I would find a way to adapt regardless. So, yeah.
For teaching, is there a favorite part? Like, do you have any favorite pieces of doing it or anything like that?
So, for teaching, I would say, I think my favorite part is when I do, like, the beginning of the year, like, figuring out who the students are. So
that's always my favorite. Like, the beginning of the year, don't have to worry about work. Just learn about this person.
Well, and people, for instance, now that I'm over at South Caldwell at a traditional school, you should have seen the looks that I got when I said I was going to spend a week on team building. And when I decided to move over, I said, if you want me to come in and do math, you have to let me do math my way.
Yeah.
It's like, you
'cause it's
have
different
to,
around here.
Yeah, I was like, you have to let me come through. I was like, I promise you, like, your scores will be higher. I promise you they'll get some passing grades. I said, you can't come in here and question the fact that I use check-off sheets for their grades. I was like, just don't question it. I said, and you come in here and see them playing with spaghetti noodles. You can't question it.
Trust me, it works.
Right. So the whole first week, in my mind, how am I supposed to teach Ben math if I don't know Ben's name? So I think that's where, it's easy for them to know my name. But before I can teach them math, I need to know them. Like, I need to know who they are, and I need to spend time while they're trying to balance a marshmallow on spaghetti. I need to spend time, like, talking to them and figuring out who they are and figuring out how they learn. So I think my favorite, it's almost like an investigative thing. So my favorite part of the school year or the semester is, like, figuring out who the kids are. Like,
so
what makes you click.
learning as well, basically.
Exactly. Because otherwise I'd be bored.
Yeah.
So the math don't change. Like, of all things that don't change, math doesn't change. And if I didn't have that, like, different piece of, like, figuring out who they were, then I think I would be bored.
Yeah, because I think there's a guy that I work with that knows who you are, and they said that they love you.
Okay.
And it's probably a lot different than what they get, because it's a traditional high school, and whenever you have, like, interactive stuff like that, it's, like, once in a blue moon kind of thing.
Definitely.
Well, around here, it's, like, every other day, almost.
I think I've completely exhausted them on, like, getting out of their comfort zone. Like,
which is a good thing.
It is definitely a good thing. They're learning how to work together and be nice to each other.
Which is, I think it's harder at that school because there's so many people.
Yes.
And you don't really...
conflicting all the time.
Yeah, here you can walk down the hall and you'll be like, oh, I know them. Like, we've known each other for a few years now.
Yeah.
But that school, like, you don't really know everybody. And, like, that kind of environment, team building, working together, that helps you make more friends. And I feel like in bigger schools there's a lot more drama, and that kind of kills the drama, like, knowing better and, like, knowing how they really are.
Well, and I don't know of any situation where you're sitting, like, realistically, I guess it really depends on your job. If you have a job that sits you in a cubicle, then maybe. But I don't know of any job realistically where you're just sitting at a desk unbothered with nothing crazy happening for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like, or 8 to 12 hours a day. So you kind of almost have to work in the chaos or, like, be able to deal with it. I think my ADD helps me out a little bit with that. Like, I can just kind of bounce around and it's okay. And I think that's the weird part. Like, other teachers are now watching what's going on, and they're like, how in the world is this happening? Like, how does she deal without them sitting in straight lines and perfectly quiet. And I'm like, you know what? If you walk in and ask any of these kids right now what they are doing, like, they know what's happening. They all know what's happening, and they're all doing it their way, and it's perfectly fine. And it takes all of that at the beginning. It takes me a week to get that going. You know, it takes me a week of, you know, learning who they are, doing little games with them. And then once I figured that out and they know how to work independently, then all I do is say, hey, this is your task of the day, and this is what I need you to do by the end of class, and it's, like, happening. And so I think that's the cool thing also about, like, teenagers, because y'all are so adaptable, and y'all can, like, handle that level, and it doesn't have to be perfectly quiet, and you don't have to, you know, totally be undistracted with everything put away to, like, get the job done. And it doesn't really matter where that's occurring at. So I think the cool thing is that I'm kind of getting to share that with some other teachers who started out thinking that I was completely insane, and now they're kind of like, oh, what's going on in there? Like,
they're
what's
learning
going
from
on in
you.
your room? Yeah. So it's been pretty cool because I've kind of kept to myself because I don't want them to think, you know, that I think that I'm better than them, or I think I've got more years of teaching or something like that. But it's been pretty cool to have them, like, walk down the hallway when it's not perfectly quiet in my room, and they can still see that math is happening.
And it's probably a nice change of pace for all of them.
I think so. I mean, I hope so. It's definitely different. Like, they still kind of look at me like I'm a little weird, but I think that's wearing off a little bit.
That makes you more human.
Exactly. And I have to, you know, like, here, I think one of the differences in the environments is here you are just on the team. Like, you know, you are on a team. It's assigned to you. We get to know each other, and it's great. And eventually all the teams have mixed up, and we're all a team, you know. I think over there I've had to figure out how to be a part of the team. Like, you have to, like, interject yourself. So, you know, this year I decided to help with the track team so that I'd meet more people, because that whole side of the building where these track coaches were, I didn't know anybody over there. And I was like, okay. So when this opportunity came up, I said, you know, sure, let me go do that so that I'll meet more people and, you know, find, like, a niche. So that's been a little different. It's been something that I'm, like, not used to. I think this is going to always be home base. But it's been kind of cool to have people ask questions about what I do and why it works, because it is unheard of to not start math on, like, day one. I'm talking about, can you imagine coming to school in your first day? It's like, here's the syllabus, try these 5 problems, and they don't know your name yet. Like, it's unheard. Like, you do not waste days. And they literally thought that I was wasting days, but now they're like, my Math 3 babies. So they went from 2, they took Math 3 this semester. They are killing it. They're doing some good stuff.
Yeah, that would not work for me, because I learn very hands-on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what kind of learner you are?
Oh, I'm definitely kinesthetic.
Yeah.
Like,
I
cannot.
Yeah, I have to learn hands-on. Like,
Yeah.
I need that, like, not one-on-one, but having partners and groups and kind of working together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think not for everybody. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
So I think that's goes along with learning people.
Right.
And you have to learn what works for them and how you can adjust to help everybody.
Well, and I think it's good to have a good combination. Like, I still have those students who are like, why did I get stuck in her classroom? Like, just give me my worksheet and let me get out of here. Mm-hmm. You know, and so this week they're doing a lot of, like, work at your own pace and not so much hands-on, because we've done a lot this semester since it was a big semester. But I think knowing your style and getting to know the kids first, like, that should always, if you go into any work environment, I think that's the number one thing you can do to probably help yourself, is whoever you're working with on a daily basis, like, you have to know them. So, like, on a personal level, it's going to make everything else run so much smoother. Like, you have to know what makes them tick. You have to know that they're getting irritated because they can hear you chew across the table. Like, you need to know those things so that your work environment goes well. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I know there's things about me that irritate my students, and I know that there's things they know now what irritates me, and so it makes it so much better. Like that 90 minutes is so much better each day just by knowing those things.
Yeah.
You kind of have like a plan B or something, like, for example, like come back here, or...
Well, I mean, I think that if think that the things that I were weighing the most is I either stay in a safe place, which this is. It's a very safe place for me, or I take the jump. And what am I missing if I don't? And so I would say this, like, as somebody who hopes to go into administration one day. Like, I have my degree in, like, to be a principal. So that's what my master's is in. And I said, if I don't jump and see what that school's like, how would I ever expect somebody to hire me as an AP over there? Like, they won't. So I don't know if I'll ever want to stop working in the classroom. I have no idea. But if I ever did decide to move up, I'm less hireable because I don't know what that other school's like. And that's what I had to think. I was like, the opportunity's there. Some people have some confidence that I can do it, and I need to just stop being scared and do it. So
you had to take a little bit of a risk.
I did have to take a risk. And every once in a while, you've got to take that risk or you might miss out. And so I will say this, like, I've learned so many new things. So while what I teach is the same, like, it's like a whole, like, little different world going on over there. Some things are better. Some things are not. You know, they're just different. But if I never did, then what if an assistant principal's job opens up and I want to apply for it? Well, they're not going to hire me if I never worked over there, if I don't even know what their bell schedule looks like, or I don't even know how they run things, or what their different APs are in charge of, because each AP is in charge of something different because they've got 4. So they all do something different, and that's kind of weird, and I'm learning that while I'm over there. So I may never leave the classroom. I might totally stay in the classroom for all 30 years, but the thing that I think knocked me over the edge was, what if I decide not to, and then I don't know about anything else.
All right, so you said that you may never leave the classroom.
I may never.
Right. And I think maybe some people can maybe relate to this as they're trying to decide their future path, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you worked for, I don't know, it felt like 7, 8, 9 years before you started your master's, right? Maybe it's 10.
Oh, no. I only worked for 3.
Okay, when did you finish it?
At year 5. Because they wouldn't let me, you have to teach for 3 years before they let me in the program. I had to get out a beginning teacher.
Okay. Well, to me, it felt like it was way later.
Yeah. So I finished at year 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Time flies. So it doesn't change the point of the question. In North Carolina at that time, and still to this day, they put a hold on paying teachers' master's pay. So all the teachers that years ago had a master's, they got a pay increase.
That's true.
But somewhere around, right around that time, they said that they're not going to pay for that master's.
That's true.
So you got caught up in this thing where you're not going to get financial compensation for going back to school.
Right.
But you still chose to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're saying, like, I may never use it.
This is
So
true.
why did you go to get a master's?
So I went to get the master's. So that's an interesting story. So I couldn't go until after year 3. I had my daughter in my first year teaching, and I decided to go when I went because I said, if I'm going to get a higher education, I need to do it before my child starts kindergarten. So I had a 2-year window. So she's 3. She's going to start school in 2 years. And I said, I cannot be doing kindergarten and grad school at the same time. Like, that's not cool. So I went ahead and started. And so Mr. Cooper's right. First year I go into grad school, it was kind of like, do I go in for admin or do I go in for math? Well, in the process of me applying to grad school is when they decide to not pay us, right? So there was actually somebody that I was working with, and he wasn't using his grad school degree either, but he was getting paid for it. Because, they saw it as a pay raise. And I said, well, okay, if they definitely aren't going to pay me for math, then I'll just go into the administrator side, and that would take me up the ladder, financially up the ladder. But the other thing that I learned is I think going to grad school made me a better teacher. There's this leadership quality that I learned along the way. To go into administration, I had to learn about, budgets, and I had to learn about how to plan a master schedule, and I had to learn, how schools worked. I had to learn about all the laws that go on behind the scenes. So it even stopped some of my complaining, because I was like, there's nothing the person above my head can do. That's a law is a law is a law. But that's not something they taught me when I was going to school for math. So it actually made me a better teacher by going into a leadership program. So my actual degree is in executive leadership with an administrative add-on. And what that really means is I could go in to be an administrator, or I could go apply for a job at a company in leadership. But that leadership piece, I think, made me a better teacher the whole time. So even though I'm not getting paid for it, I valued the things that I learned enough to keep going, because I could have gotten my acceptance letter and just quit. At that time I wasn't sure that I'd ever want to get out of the classroom, and that's still proven to be true all these years later. But I think it's made me a better teacher. It taught me how to facilitate all those things that I do in my classroom, so I didn't have to have them sitting at a desk doing worksheets. It taught me how to give tasks and delegate things and run my classroom almost more of like a business than a let's learn how to do this formula and do a work.
And I think growing up, you want to be rich, you want to have all this, all that, but as you grow up, you see the world in a different way, and like you said, you just wanted to supply for your family.
Yep.
And if that's what you want, you don't have to have all these fancy cars or fancy house. You just want to have a small house with your family and be able to live comfortably.
Yeah. And I think that's what matters. I think you have to decide what matters more. I don't think either way of life is bad. I don't sit here and think that people who have money are awful. But I think you have to just decide what you're willing to work for and what's important. What are those important aspects? Is it worth doing, a 6 or 7 day a week job? Is it worth being on call every other weekend? People in the medical profession have to be. What are your real desires in life? And then you have to decide what career fits that.
That's a common thread that's come up in a lot of these. And there's several different points of view. And the one that says, money's not everything is probably in the majority. But, there's other people that said, I did this one job just to make a bunch of money really fast.
Yeah.
So I could do this next thing that I really wanted to do, kind of thing. So I don't know, it is interesting, but the common thread between all the ones that said money's not everything, they're all teachers in low paying professions and stuff like that. Because you do those things because you really do care about them, and it's not about the money.
Yep. Totally agree.
And I think that just goes along with growing up and being able to think more logically.
Mm-hmm.
And like Ben said, with little kids, you're oh, I want to do this and have all these big things. But that's just imagination, which some people get to do that.
Yeah.
That's what they stick with. That's what they actually want to do. But going off of childhood, what was there anything that when you were little you wanted to do that you ended up not wanting to do whenever you grow up?
Career-wise? Mm. I think career-wise, I bounced around a lot between, I kind of thought about architecture probably early high school, late middle school. At one point in time, I really thought I wanted to be an archaeologist. I thought it would be really cool to dig in the dirt early on. And then I found out that it was not as glamorous as it looked, and I had no patience to dust things off. That was not my life. And so I think along the way, an important part was anytime you are able to experience those things, even in like a small minimum format, you should try it, because then you might figure out that it's not you, that you like it maybe as a hobby, or you like watching a documentary about it, but you don't want to actually do it. You know, I job shadowed at a vet's office. I love animals, but when a dog got brought in that had been shot, and they like hold it down and are doing its thing, like, I literally almost passed out. I said, I probably could do that better with a human being than I could this poor dog. So I knew that I did not want to work in the vet's office. Like, I thought that was going to even be like maybe a career option. So I think whenever you get a chance to experience something that even you're thinking about, you should do it, because it could change your mind. It might make you more interested, or it might make you, decide that, never mind, I don't even need to go down that path.
So being able to, like, see something instead of just, oh, I think this will be fun.
Right.
Could change it.
Exactly. And so I think that, the job shadowing that I did was not required in high school. But my mom was like, you need to go and do some things and figure out. And so my mom was very figure out what you want to do kind of person. And we, like, just called up some different places. And I spent some weekends in some different locations and decided that vet was not me. And no, I did not want to dust off rocks. And, while digging in the dirt's great. No, I do not want to be doing those fine, minuscule kind of tasks that they were asking me to do.
Was there any classes you would have taken if you had more thought, I guess?
Like in college?
Yeah.
There was a class I really wanted to take. They only taught it every other year, and it was on time travel. And so geek out on those things.
Where was this?
It was at NC State. And so some professor who was like this world-renowned physics person, literally would come in and teach physics, like a physics class, like elective, on the possibility of time travel and how mathematically it was possible. And it was very weird. And
that's
and I was
quite
like,
interesting.
Oh, I want to like sit in that class just to like nerd out for a little bit.
Just to sit there.
But it never fit into my schedule. And there were I only had 2 options while I was at NC State to take it, and neither time did it fit.
That's I've never heard of anything like that. That's really cool.
It was like the mathematics behind time travel and how it was mathematically possible.
I do think we need to start wrapping it up. Did y'all have a final question planned?
Yeah, we did. So, what would be the best what would be the best advice that you could give somebody like me or Ben or anybody that from your experience?
Somebody trying to figure out like what it is that is going to make them the happiest.
I definitely would advise them to try different things. So try out anything that ever pops into your mind that you think would make you happy. I would also think about, like, right now where you sit, where are you the happiest? So if your happy place is with people, then you need to be working around people. If your happy place is by yourself, like that's where you get your best ideas and your most energy, then maybe you need a job that doesn't have as many people. What is like your love, like your way to give back? So what do you love to give back? Because I feel like if I didn't feel like I was giving back, then I don't know if I'd feel as passionate. So for instance, like even doctors, granted they make a lot of money, but there's a way for them to, they do that job because they feel like they're giving back or they have something to give. And so whatever that is, even as an engineering, like those people feel like they have a design or an idea to give other people. And that's what makes them happy. So I think as you're going through, like think about where currently is your happy place. Where do you feel the most comfortable at? What kind of people are you around? And try to incorporate that into what's going on job-wise. There's new jobs getting created every single day. And so if you think about that, then I bet you there's like a spot where it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to go to work today. So just keep your eyes open. Think about what makes you happy. Don't make that negotiable. What are your non-negotiables as far as a career? Like, if you don't want to travel, if you don't want to work, 6 or 7 days a week or being on call, like, what kind of career pathway does that kind of translate into? And that's what I would start, like, looking into and visiting. And
I'm going to go ahead and say thank you very much for
oh,
being here.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, thank you for coming and talking to us. I think it will help people, not just us.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm excited to listen to the rest of them.
It was quite enjoyable for me, so
this is fun stuff. I think we should podcast it more often.
Keep this an ongoing thing.
Should be.